Hey, welcome to the AI in Education podcast. We are in a proper studio this week. And that gap in the middle is where Dan would have been were Dan able to join us. But unfortunately, he's not. And as Dan always says, I always get to do the best interviews when he's not around. This week is no exception. This week, I'm with Eddie Major from the University of Adelaide Adelaide University.
University, that's right.
So Adelaide, I mean, this is really exciting. We're on campus here at the university. It is the first week of operation for what is now Australia's largest university.
It's the largest domestic university. I think if you looked at, say, the gross student numbers, we might be second places behind Monash still. But roughly about 70,000 students, 11,000 staff, including casuals, 2 universities together in one. Hundreds of digital systems all come together, brand new logo, brand new colours. Yeah, it's a pretty impressive achievement. And students are on campus in classes.
And there's been a heck of preparation for that, because this is years in the making.
Yeah.
But look, let me just relieve you of thinking about that, because I know 2 years of stress has come into this moment where the students have all arrived.
Yep.
But let's put that to one side and forget about what's going on right now, getting students in. But maybe just give us a little bit of background, because you're in a new role in the university, so I'd love to know about that. But where do you come from, Eddie? Why did you agree to talk to me?
So artificial intelligence, I think, is the greatest general purpose technology revolution that we've seen, probably certainly in our lifetimes. Originally, I compared it of similar scale to the internet, but now I think it's probably more than that.
I agree.
It's more impactful, more disruptive, and it's changing things in different ways. I have been working in AI for about a bit more than 4.5 years now. I was originally communications manager at the Australian Institute for Machine Learning here at the university, which is the leading research and development facility for AI here in Australia. And then as part of the university merger, I came across campus to be AI coordinator for learning and teaching.
Okay. So you've gone from kind of that policy and governance piece into actually, you've got to do stuff.
Yeah, no, that's certainly true. The change here is, as we're considering the role of AI in higher education, so here in learning and teaching, it's, well, what's the level of AI literacy we want to see for the 95% of students who are not ever going to be computer science students, for everyone else? How do we change things? How do we rise at an institutional level to build that into the student experience from day one? There's a lot to go through. It's a challenge, I think, for pretty much everyone in the sector. And in many ways, the challenges that we're experiencing are far more similar than they are different. So it's so important to come on podcasts like this, to talk about the things that we're working through, to talk about what's happening in the sector, because I think there's a lot of benefit for everyone.
Okay, so we have been doing this podcast for 6 years now.
Yep.
And so we started in that age of very different kind of AI. The age of AI that we're in now, which I think about as the human age because of the skills you need to interact with it. That started 3 years, 93 days ago, when ChatGPT suddenly appeared. In that time, you're now in a situation where you, instead of going, oh no, the university is going to be completely destroyed by AI, you've put 2 universities together and building a new model of learning. So, like, first of all, you said this is going to be more disruptive than the internet. Well, if I think about that, it's disrupting learning hugely. Surely that must mean the end of the university.
In the university. No, well, hopefully not before happy hour at the uni bar. It's a Friday afternoon after all. No, AI is not going to destroy the university campus. We know it. It's changing university education. I think that a lot of those messages and a lot of the fear is certainly concern about what is unknown. But we've been here before with MOOCs, the massively open online courses, and then everyone would be, because when internet and streaming became more open and more accessible, and the technology supported that rich multimedia content, all of a sudden you wouldn't have students going to top universities because Stanford had put all their engineering content online for free. Well, the leading universities have done that, and that online content is excellent. But guess what? Students still want to go to Stanford and Harvard because of the experience there. So we recognize that students and people come together in places of learning, and they have for hundreds of years, in some universities, thousands of years. That is not going to change, because there's something fundamentally social and human about learning new things. We are social creatures. We communicate with one another. AI as a technology is certainly changing huge aspects of that, but it's not going to change the campus experience that much. I think there's human interpersonal things if anything, will become more valued and more recognized for the value that they deliver.
So 8 years ago, in the media world, there was this content is king.
Yeah.
And it feels like in universities at the moment, it isn't content that is king, it's connection that is king, that it's a social experience. And what you learn at university is partly about knowledge, but also partly about that whole experience thing.
Yeah. So if we use previous metaphors of the calculator, and that changed our relationship with math and who needs to learn math and how much you need to learn to then go on to your careers or go through an academic career, for example. So if generative AI is changing how we access information, how we analyze information, it's lowering the barriers to access information with some problematic effects as well. Maybe then it's just rebalancing things a little bit, which is in business and in life, social skills, interpersonal skills, and then the role of understanding interpersonal relationships in business and in life is fundamental. And you learn it as you grow up. It's not something that's taught with any great sort of intention in higher education or even in vocational education. It's part of growing up and learning through life. So if technology changes, AI technology in this case, changes the role of access to and then the quality of information that we can access and analyze, the knowledge-based economy jobs will change, and what's valued and what's not is going to be rebalanced and recalibrated in that regard. That's going to be workforce-wide globally. Yeah.
I'm thinking now about next week, I'm talking to 170 chief people officers for organizations in Australia. And part of that focus of the change is knowledge is still important, but skills and behaviors goes up. And certain skills and behaviors, critical thinking, communication skills, the things that we call soft skills, they are so important in the future.
Yeah. It's interesting. There was a CSIRO report, CSIRO report.
That's easy for you to say.
God, I know, CSIRO. Just spell it out. Back in, I want to say a couple of years ago, about the top skills in demand for the AI revolution. And it puts communication skills as either number 2 or number 3. It's right up there. And in many cases, sort of outpacing some of the hard technical skills, which, because there are technical roles, of course, but a huge amount of AI adoption and AI transformation is a deployment into a workforce, deployment into an organization. That requires a whole spectrum of skills from a whole teams of people.
Okay, so I've got to stop you because I've read the report from MIT that tells us that AI is making us all stupid.
All right, the AI brain rot myth. Okay. It's fascinating to see smart people in their own domains. They get excited about an AI story, and then sometimes either the experiment design or certain aspects of things doesn't always stack up to the great myth and the great hype that you read in the news stories. And I love these news stories. I used to work in communications and PR. I know that news is produced. I get it. It's great fun. That famous MIT study, first of all, when you say using AI, we know now that the large language models and the increasing capabilities as multimodal, knowledge-based, retrieval augmented generation. There's huge amounts of different ways that people can and are using this. You can't call it one thing. It's so much more than that.
Yep.
But also at its core, they're talking about students and also a small cohort of about 50 people or so, don't really have much neural activity or cognitive activity when they are taking content from ChatGPT and putting it into an essay, writing it with AI.
Yep.
They're not writing anything.
No.
This is cut and paste.
Yep.
Right? So let's call it out for what it is. But then also don't blow up what the impacts of that are. It's not causing long-lasting damage to things. It's just absolutely absurd.
But the research report had scans of our brains on the front of it, of course. It was accurate. But you're right, it's 54 students.
Yep.
Started, only 19 students finished that survey. So it is the results of 19 students.
Yeah.
But the big fundamental conclusion was, if you ask ChatGPT to write your essay, you don't remember what your essay contains. Well, hello.
Yeah. So the idea of this AI as this magical thing, we hopefully would have moved past that. And what we're talking about is from a workflow process, you've got students or people in this study prompting a few things. They're cutting and pasting chunks of content because that was what the experiment was. And they were told you're supposed to write this in here, take that and put it in your essay. So they're cutting and pasting. So I wouldn't learn much from doing that, and neither would you. So this isn't some great big revelation. I don't understand why it got so misunderstood so easily. But I do think that AI is changing our brains and changing the way we are doing certain things. People talk about the impacts of cognitive offloading, and I think that's a lot of research going into that.
Yep.
But also from the language perspective. I mean, I was a communications manager. I was a communications major at university. I read a lot. I write a lot. I'm interested in language. And there's some interesting studies. One from Max Planck Institute, I want to say late 2024, maybe early 2025. They took hundreds of thousands of hours of podcasts. People like us just yapping away, conversational, not too scripted, people
Yep.
just talking naturally. More than 700,000 hours worth, plus some academic talks or lectures and things. Before and after ChatGPT. And
Yep.
then they started looking at how people are communicating. And then you see this sudden change in certain word choice.
Yep.
Delve is like the classic
I was-
ChatGPT.
I was going to say, I always think of that because that was one of the very first indicators that it overused the word delve. And when I would hear people talking,
Yep.
they would say the word delve and my AI detector would go off in my head.
Yeah.
And now I'm relaxed about it. But at that point, I became so aware of it. But you're right. There's evidence that the way that we are communicating is being adjusted by AI.
And that's in conversational speech. So there have been other studies, for example, about politicians' speeches in Parliament, for example. But if they're reading from notes that have been prepared for them, maybe this is a parliamentary staffer who is just doing the ChatGPT cut and paste. That's not a strong evidence of any real brain changes or cultural changes in that regard. This study from Max Planck is interesting because it's conversational speech. It's an early indicator, and it's just one study, and it's at preprint still. It's not peer reviewed, but it's indicative of this sort of cross-modality lexical shift because we don't normally change the way we speak in our vocabulary that much just from reading.
Yes.
And we don't change how we speak just from, say, watching television and the news. If you watch the news every night, you don't suddenly start speaking like a BBC newsreader, for example. It requires something a bit more interactive than that. Children will learn accents and different ways of speaking from being immersed in a new school if you move countries, for example. From watching television, not so much. It suggests that maybe potentially the interactive nature of LLMs is more impactful than we might think compared to other mediums, reading, writing, listening to the radio. And
so it's interesting because I always say please and thank you to ChatGPT. And I know now that now it doesn't change the results. Before it used to. But I still do it because I don't want to change the way I interact with people. And if I'm not saying please and thank you to it, I might then get into the same habit with people. Interesting, the point about are we changing language just from being immersed in a pattern versus, oh, well, the language changed because you wrote that with ChatGPT. You wrote the speech. The Vatican have just issued an edict to priests saying, do not write your sermons with ChatGPT, which is really interesting because, the sermons would have come out with different things if they'd been written with AI. Okay,
that's interesting.
Right. So that's really fascinating. One of the other important myths around AI that we should be kind of like, let's do the favorite one of the podcast is we have said 28 times across different episodes, AI detectors don't work. We had Mark Bassett did a great episode with us at the beginning of this year. Really just nailing the last nail down on the coffin of AI detectors don't work. But I'm always fascinated to hear other people's perspective because
it's something we've talked about before, and you've definitely covered it well. And I agree with you that from a technology perspective, they're just not reliable enough in terms of detecting AI-generated text. And again, from that communications and language background, there is no fundamental hidden fingerprint of AI in words. There's no shibboleth to be found. You're chasing something elusive. It doesn't really exist. But the other thing I'd probably add is from a university perspective. When you're using an AI detector, you're using AI. That's the software itself is AI to detect AI. What you're talking about is organizational AI use. And universities, public universities at least, not so much the private ones, are a little bit different. So we're similar to state governments or local governments in that it's a statutory authority. A person who is directly affected or impacted by a decision of a public authority under administrative law has certain rights that they don't necessarily have for, say, a company making the decision. So two things. One is full transparency about how decisions are made, the process, and the person who makes the decision.
Oh, so that the transparency is that black box in the corner made the decision.
Yeah,
Isn't
good luck
transparent
with that,
enough,
with that,
right?
And then two other things. One is, internal review. There must be an internal review process, and also external review. So if a person is dissatisfied about a decision that they have received that directly affects them, if it's about a local council or a public university, in our case here in South Australia, they can go to the South Australian Ombudsman and that decision can be reviewed. Now, I think that from what I've seen in the sector, that the level of AI policy and AI governance and AI procedures and associated training around the use of, in this case, AI detectors to facilitate or integrate in part of administrative decision-making is such that the first university that gets itself before an ombudsman is going to be in for a bumpy ride. And
so here at the brand new Adelaide University, have you been involved in the decision about AI detectors?
Look, it's part of the technology stack in a range of products, and it's still in a range of universities. And it leads on to another issue that I think about AI software, which is what I call embedding. So you've your technology products like Turnitin, for example, which has been a plagiarism detector for many, many years. I think 1999 or maybe 2000 when it came onto the market. And for about 20 or so years, there was a golden period when you could look at a student's essay and pick out, this isn't quoted properly, this isn't paraphrased properly, this is copied from some other essay, from some other, that kind of thing. And it gave a level of investigative insight for pursuing a potential misconduct case. It was quite good. Before Turnitin, it just wasn't available to course coordinators or markers. You just had to use other forms of instinct or just the clear signs of plagiarizing something from a text that you'd recognize because you were an experienced professor. That was now a period of time. That time's now closed. The AI detectors, they're probabilistic, they're vague, and they're not reliable to be used in a way that can sort of point the finger at any degree of specificity of things. What we're looking to do here at the university, I certainly want to see, is a move towards a more of assurance of learning and less of viewing AI in an assessment artifact, that's the final product that a student submits, as being the focal point for contention. I think that is distracting us from a couple of other issues. And one is there's far and far more student use of AI in what I call upstream AI use. So the first version of ChatGPT, you type in your little prompt, please give me a 300-word essay on Shakespeare for my assessment, it's due now, and then it comes out into the output. Very simple transactional nature of potential academic misconduct. However, it had shallow or smaller context windows in those models, so you couldn't throw a lot of information toward them. Whereas now you can take a whole bunch of course readings, whole book PDFs, put them into NotebookLM, Google NotebookLM, and then you can probe them, you can read them, you can summarize them, you can compare them, you can synthesize them. There's far more student activity happening upstream before anything touches the assessment output or the artifact. And students, I think, have a very simple understanding of what their assessment is, which is, here's my assignment and you submit it. Whereas teaching educators, it's probably a different view going further upstream as well. If we focus too much on the output, whether it's from a misconduct perspective or even just focusing our assessment of learning too much on that and ignore all the upstream stuff because we don't see it, the students aren't in front of us when they're doing this reading and this research. And if we're not teaching to that, that's, I think, where the problem.
Okay, so we've got this really tricky balance going on here because at one level, we want to avoid the brain rot problem of students just switching off their brains and signing a task. And on the other hand, we want to kind of get it right that that students are learning, but that learning may include AI. But I think about podcast. We put 4 series of the podcast into NotebookLM, and now you can have a conversation with it about some of the lessons that come out of the people we've interviewed, the 200 research papers that we've talked about. And that's a valid way to do research.
Yeah, and preparing for our chat today, I took your previous episodes and put them into NotebookLM and went through what you've been talking about. This concept of AI use and learning and understanding, the idea that it's fundamentally or automatically problematic is a myth that's carried through from early 2023 when ChatGPT first arrived. It was big and scary. And I think most people have put that behind them now, I think, by and large across the
as somebody who works with employers, then it's interesting because I think I said in the last couple of weeks, there's an overlap, a significant overlap between what academics would call cheating and employers would call efficiency. When you go to the workplace, there is a different expectation about how you might use AI. And we've got to get that overlap closer together.
That's absolutely correct. So in workplaces, you'll see far more interest in attention to detail, to quality, to factual accuracy. Authorship, authenticity is still important. No one wants to work with someone who's stealing their ideas or stealing their work. But the integrity of materials in a work environment is, do you know your stuff? Is it correct? Is it accurate? I think it's a good point to pick out.
Okay, let me take you into one last topic. I'm starting to see discussions about completely new models of learning. I'm starting to see universities where they are putting AI front and center into the curriculum in the same way that they're putting literacy and numeracy in there. You've got to have AI skills. We're starting to introduce modules. I think you've done it here. But at a big picture level, what does an AI first university look like? And should there even be one? But let's start with what might it look like?
So first, what is an AI first anything? Was an AI first corporation or a AI first organization? So in the case of Google, for example, is an AI first company. Even before our current absolute boom in post ChatGPT AI, Google from the late 1990s, they invented a search algorithm. Was a back rub or was first called something like that. They're an AI company. Amazon is primarily an AI company. So it's about recognizing that artificial intelligence is fundamentally driving every aspect of operation or every aspect of activities in an organization. So once an AI first university, La Trobe has gone off on its AI first strategy, and it's about pushing forward from the top down. And the core vision, the core strategy is to put AI into every aspect of learning and teaching. Now, before everyone freaks out, while it is my job to be the number one AI, hype monger on campus, that's what it's fun. It doesn't necessarily mean that AI is integrated into every single aspect of learning and teaching for a student experience. And in many ways, I think it's a call for doing things in different ways in response that would see some activities where there's almost no AI. If we are concerned about the impacts of AI for student, particularly for reading and writing, people again focus on the outputs too much on the essays as the assessment artifacts. I want to see what it means is you're calling from an institution-wide approach to first embed AI literacy across the curriculum. The University of Florida has done it. They put AI first courses across all of 16 of their colleges.
Yep. And is it Florida? You can't graduate unless you've done those courses. I think we're starting to see that in some institutions as well.
No, that's ringing a bell. I can't remember which university. I'm not sure if it's compulsory, but there's so much of it across. It's like 230 AI courses, and they have a central criteria by what they consider to be an AI course or not. So it's AI in, contemporary literature, American literature, for example, is, AI in architecture, and it's basically embedding AI into the curriculum, still teaching that content. But also, we recognize that core scholarship, the ability to read something at depth, is a traditional skill, and then that sort of academic reasoning, and then to actually write an essay, that these still old-fashioned things. But we can't teach them in old-fashioned ways. So we can't give students take-home essays and not expect them to use AI as part of that workflow. It's a call for common first-year courses where students are getting 4 or 5 hours of dedicated reading time. It's flipped classrooms. It's small teaching groups. It's very interpersonal. It's maybe even literally giving the readings hard copy printed so that students will read them, no screens. If you want to assess like pure writing skills, it's programmatic assessments. It's focusing less on spelling and grammar, and it's delivery in secured environments. It's writing something in class. We're seeing elements of that. It's coming through. That's part of the response to it, I think. Well, I think just integrating AI literacy across a curriculum it is important, but it's not enough. But then again, I'm a communications major. I read voraciously, and that's because I came to university at a time when there wasn't generative AI. If I was a young person now, knowing my addiction to the technology, I'm not sure if I would. I think I'd probably just cheat and put all my papers into Notebook LM and process them for there.
Okay, so I'm going to give you an impossible question, and there is no right answer to this. Okay, so no right answer to the answers. So we're not going to judge the answer, but I want to understand a bit of your thinking that will help us. The scenario I'm going to describe to you, where is that on a scale of getting us towards an AI first university on a scale of 0 to 10? I'm going to give you 6 examples. So the first example is like a couple of universities have done. We define what AI literacy is, and we say you can't graduate unless you've done those classes, achieved that skills. Where's that on a scale of 0 to 10 on creating an AI university?
4.
Okay, and why is it a 4?
Well, that's part of it, but I think there's so much more. Okay. If you're an AI first university, you're also integrating AI into operations. There's like the digital twin example. It's about bringing a central unit together. You call it an AI incubator, or you call it whatever you like. You have your own in-house engineering capability. You're like the University of, here we say, in our deployment, do we use Microsoft Copilot, or do we do a ChatGPT Edu, or this or that? It's not or. University of Florida supports 26. AI, last time I checked, 26 AI models, probably a whole lot more. That's the scale of what we're talking about here. You talk about AI literacy as a core unit. It's more than just one. I think you can do, probably about 4 or 5 different ways. It's also about AI literacy anchor units within key areas, law, and we're doing some great things here in law about where AI fits in and how it's changing whole workplaces and whole professions. So yeah, I don't think just having a compulsory unit is getting you much further than about a 4 or 5 on that.
Okay, great. So next scenario, where is this on the 0 to 10 scale of creating an AI first university? You're a university where you've decided to give all of your staff advanced AI tools. Like we've had a bunch of universities that said, well, we're going to give ChatGPT Edu or Claude to all of our staff. Where's that on the scale of 0 to 10?
Probably about the same level, probably about the 5. Deployment and giving access to the tools. Okay, that's one step. What's the professional development programs around it? How are you doing and identifying specific use cases in specific areas? How are you building AI into workflows? How are you rebuilding your workflows so that staff can enjoy better productivity, better insights into the work that they do? So much more to be done than that.
So it's more than just tools, it's the enablement and all the other things.
Yeah, but also more and more about advanced agentic capabilities. And I think that universities are large enough and complex enough that it's a mindset. It's not just about procurement. It's going to be about that in-house capability. If you've got an organization that's maybe got an annual turnover in the billions, it's about, well, what's your internal capability? Think about sovereign AI, which is more of a conversation for sort of national policy. But it can apply to an organization, which is if you're AI first, you're not an organization of AI users, you're an organization of AI creators. And I think that's an important thing to understand.
Okay. Next scenario, again on the 0 to 10 scale, and there's no right answer. You're a university like Oxford has been, which is, we're going to give these AI tools to all of our students. Or UNE is where they've got their, I would say they're sovereign. They've got their own magic AI. Is that moving up the scale or down the scale?
Again, I think we've seen that. I mean, I think University of Michigan might have been the first, and that they got their campus AI tool suite deployed for I guess they start semester in September in 2023. So that was pretty soon. Well, Florida we've talked about, and of course here in Australia, you're going to have Sydney, you've got Cogniti, you've got RMIT, it's Val, University of Melbourne, it's Spark. We've got some custom software here in Proof of Concept plus Copilot. All the different names for what are fundamentally the same things. They're custom API wrappers under the hood. It's a ChatGPT style model that's hosted in the cloud. And then the cost there is at the wholesale. Yeah, that's important. And I think that it offers benefits by deploying them to provisioning it to all students. There are 2 immediate benefits. One, you've leveled the playing field, which is students that have got money to pay for subscriptions get higher quality tools than others. It's a student equity issue. Students can and still will use anything else because they've got access at home. That wouldn't change that. But then you've created a central focus for what are you building your general resources and training and materials for. Once you've got at least one standard campus AI platform, you've got a starting point there. I emphasize starting point. It's not going to be an amazing AI first experience, probably about 4 or 5 out of 10. I'd say it's standard. It's really a standard technology.
I wonder if some of those people are doing it to move their academic community, because when you say all your students have access to it, you can't ignore it as an academic. Okay. How about what the University of Sydney have done in their law school, which is that they've said, we are going to give all of our students access to Harvey AI, which is used by professional lawyers. It's an AI system for lawyers, which is a threat to graduates leaving university. Other the entry-level job's going to be there because they'll just automate it with AI. But having that taught as part of the process of becoming a law graduate, like where does that?
That's good. All right. So what I like about law, and I think our law school here, but I think probably across the sector, is that out of everyone in the professional knowledge economy, I think the legal profession has seen this coming sooner. And I think they've recognized the scale of the disruption more accurately than in other areas. There's still people that I talk to in other professional areas like, oh yeah, this AI thing. Lawyers still in nothing but information, but they also understand the importance of the human role in decision making. And we talk about responsible AI. They might think about it, responsible and liable for certain things. It's about the relationship between people, decisions, and information, written information. Lawyers are also really interested in precision and accuracy. So things like the hallucination or inaccuracies in LLM generated psychoanalysis. So they've been onto this for a long time. So I think people recognize that the challenge for law is that it's typically a profession that charges by the hour. So it's for services based on time. And that in the past has been a disincentive towards innovation. So what does the lawyering business model look like in the future? And I've met a couple that have moved to a fixed fee for service model. That used to be kind of the practice of your low rent lawyers. And then it was, the fixed fee for service and get your pay for. So, but we're seeing as well, the courts are doing their own guidelines for how AI can be used in documents that are provided to the court. So absolutely, that's really, really important because it's demonstration that a certain discipline has recognized the specific implications of what AI is doing to what they're teaching and what they're studying, and then they're pursuing a strategy in response. That's about a sort of a 7 or 8.
Yeah, and I think with an employer hat on, and I'm not a lawyer, but if I think about with an employer hat on, if I was employing graduates and I had 2 equal graduates, the one that had AI integrated in a professional sense into their course would be more likely to be a hire because they are more likely to bring in new ideas and help me move my whole organization.
Well, what better place to be at the front end of that innovation experimentation and to make a few mistakes along the way than at university where we're learning things, the students are learning, it's a learning environment, or in the workforce when all of a sudden the stakes are real. That's the role of the university is to drive part of this. You mentioned in law, I'd add another one is probably, I like what Melbourne's doing in their Faculty of Built Environments, which is understanding that while everyone's had a conversation about AI, particularly text-based after ChatGPT and the traditional written assessment, generative image AI in architecture, in design, and those sorts of things. And they've done some really interesting work from about 2023 as well. So that's what I think I want to see across the sector in specific areas. Also AI in clinical practice, which is increasingly important as well, both in terms of clinical skills and simulation, we're using it as teaching, but also about the role of AI in medical note-taking. And there's a whole minefield of, well, also incredible benefits as well. If you're able to use AI scribes in medical practice, you're paying attention to your patient more than you are to typing the notes. But of course, medicine's its own field, so that's got its own risks and important characteristics.
Okay, and then the last scenario in terms of an AI for university, a university that has got very clear policies around the role of AI in assessment. So whether that's the Sydney 2-lane approach, which is there are either invigilated assessments without AI, or there's everything else, and everything else is in a bucket, or somebody that has worked out how to integrate AI into assessments in the same way you have open book exams of, yes, it's a part of the way that you're going to work, and therefore it's part of the assessment.
Hey, look, if a university finds a perfect way to integrate AI into assessment, that's the magical promised land. I think that it is the classic example in what you call policy. It's a tricky problems. I don't think that it's ever going to be a perfect response to it. I think it's going to be integrated to business as usual that will constantly and continually be adjusting and readjusting and recalibrating our assessment approaches as technology continues to change here. So there's no magical destination. It's not, the perfect policy is in place, thank God, project done, let's move on to something else. It's going to be constant. So I think first and foremost, as long as there's this intentional and very deliberate course coordinators, lecturers, tutors are asking questions, they're talking about the problems that they're having, that's a good thing. When people start moaning and complaining, like a certain article in The Australian a couple of weeks ago, and I get it, but when you have educators with 20 years experience calling their students zombies that are, addicted to AI, I'm like, okay, well, we've all said dumb things, hopefully not to a journalist. Oh, no. It's not helping the conversation, and it's not really moving things forward. But no, back to what the question was the ranking of, if a university has invested resources and really spent the time engaging with their staff and their students, and they've really put it into high quality policy for AI and assessment, that's vital. 6 and 7, somewhere in there.
Yeah, brilliant. And I'm thinking from the perspective of somebody in a school listening to this conversation, all of that is helping me to understand the destination my students may go on to and their approach to it, and the signals I might be looking for about how my students might experience the next stage of their education.
Yeah, it's vital and it's important. When it comes to policy from a student experience, they want clarity and they want simplicity of what's legit and what's not. The reality is that clarity is easy to wish for. It's harder to deliver because there's just so much diversity in using AI. And I mention this all the time. What does that mean? It's something depressing. But as long as there are genuine efforts and an ongoing conversation to find clarity or improve clarity, that's absolutely vital. We're seeing still diverse approaches across the whole sector. I think in the next few years, you'll find standards sort of falling into place, either de facto or becoming more standardized. But it's going to take time because these are all human factors, and universities are slow-moving beasts, whereas AI is tearing ahead.
Eddie, that has been an amazing conversation. We have covered so much ground, and I can't help but imagine how large the scope of your new role is. You are in the world's
Newest
youngest
yeah.
university,
One week,
and
only
yet
week old,
one of the
yeah.
oldest.
Yeah.
You are, hey, you have this scope of AI right across the university when nobody can really nail it to the wall and say this is AI.
Yeah.
I mean, geez, you're going to have an exciting couple of years.
It's not boring. It's not boring. Look, I don't know where this crazy train's going, but glad I got a front row seat.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for everything that you've just shared with all the listeners.
Thanks for having me on the show, and it's been a pleasure to have you here at Adelaide University, the newest university in the country. Although we're down in the studio, which is buried underground, we're in the basement, but it's a beautiful campus, and it's great to be here.
Thank you.